Howdy, with this video, I want to go over essay number 2, make sure you understand what I'm looking for there. Before I do that, I want to go over the schedule real quickly. Hopefully you're getting response number 11 due. I'm doing this video on Monday, the 22nd. I gave you the 23rd because I got turned around on some emails, and that's fine. But for the 25th, on Thursday, the thesis for your essay number 2 is due, just that one sentence that tells me what your essay is about, or you can just kind of discuss what topic you're thinking about doing, whatever works for you. And I'm going to make sure you're on the right track and offer suggestions if I can. Then on Monday, March 29th, the first 2 paragraphs of essay number 2 are due. And again, that'll be a check-in. Make sure you're on the right track there. On April 1st, the full draft's due. I'll sign the peer reviews just like last time. We'll switch out with 2 other people. Then on the 5th, those peer reviews are due. And then hopefully on the 8th, the final version, we'll be able to get the final version of essay number 2 in there. We'll see. We might have to push that back depending on how quickly I can get through the peer reviews. But after that, we'll get into poetry, and kind of hopefully it's a little more downhill from there, and hopefully a little fun with the poetry. We've kind of been reading some depressing plays and some depressing short stories. Hopefully we can have a little more fun with the poetry there. But hopefully it'll feel a little more downhill. The poetry essays, there's no research. It's just you working with a poem. It's a little shorter as well. That's something to look forward to. But right now we're on essay number 2, and we'll stay focused on that. For the assignment sheet, everything's up there on the content page under material for essay 2. I'll move that up here once we're done with the response paper. But here you'll see the essay itself. I'll move that up as well. Essay number 2 on the drama. You're required to read the Brian Johnson essay, which is right here. There's the link to the Scott McCloud's TED Talk, and there's the quoting from drama handout. And I already have it pulled up, so I'm going to pull up the essay. And for essay number 2, you're going to write a 1,000-word guided research essay. In other words, I'm going to tell you exactly where to go with the research. You should not do additional research. It's a great way to get a bad grade. Make sure you're using MLA documentation. Some of you are starting to bring a little APA formatting into things. I probably have some other classes using APA, and you're trying to keep them both in your head, which is just not easy. It's a challenge for a student. But make sure you're in MLA formatting. Your essay should be organized as follows. For section 1, you're going to have 3 distinct sections here. Section 1, you should introduce, summarize, and quote, and discuss one idea. One of the ideas from Brian Johnson's essay, Realism in a Dollhouse. We'll take a look at that here in a second. And you should also do the same thing for a TED Talk by Scott McCloud. Who's kind of a fairly famous comic book maker and critic at the YouTube site there. That's about a 15-minute video. And what you're going to do when you get into it, you're probably going to gasp a little bit. These are people who have thought about these things for most of their adult lives, so they're going to be, they're going to be talking at kind of a level above us, and that's kind of normal. With Brian Johnson, he's an Ibsen scholar. He died a few years ago, but we're looking at a guy who's read all of Ibsen's work in the original Norwegian and has thought about it his entire academic career. So he's going to know more than you. You're going to have, sometimes the language is going to be a little difficult to work through sometimes because he's a little bit ahead of us. This essay is in draft form. It's also a humanities essay, which they're allowed to kind of meander a bit and throw out some ideas, which makes it great for us, but it can make it hard if you're more of a science person and you get to the point. He may not get to that one point the way you want him to, so kind of bear with him a little bit. But you just want to go through this and kind of work through it and try and find one idea you want to work with, and kind of also be thinking about Lulu and New, because eventually you're going to apply Johnson's idea to the graphic novel and McCloud's idea to a dollhouse. Once you kind of juxtapose it's a hard word, I don't know why I picked that one. The two, so you're working with criticism about a dollhouse and applying it to the graphic novel, Lulu and New. I just want to go through and kind of see which idea you want to work with. A lot of the ideas he'll throw out, you might just go like, no. May take you a while to get through, and I've highlighted some here. He eventually, he kind of gets in this law of man versus the law of woman. I don't know, if you're into gender studies these days, that's going to kind of bristle a little bit, but Hegel was a 19th century philosopher. But you're just going to kind of go through, and you're going to start seeing him throwing out some ideas here. The traditional roles of women and men are identities which are inherited, which we have to work on and develop sovereignty over, kind of suggesting there's kind of things we've kind of made up in some ways. And that might be kind of an interesting one to start working with. You might start thinking like, well, I see that in Lulu and New. Huh. I see that in a dollhouse. Huh. And you might start thinking, oh, maybe I'll work with that. Or this idea of a possible spiritual awakening. And eventually you want to kind of turn this into your own essay. So you might start thinking in terms of, well, do the men really, are they really ready for that kind of spiritual awakening? Or are they something not quite clicking there for them? That could be a very interesting essay, actually. The fantasy lives we build up for ourselves. We all create little fantasies about who we are and who our partners are. And they're not always accurate, right? So you're going to read through this. Some of it, you're going to kind of go like, no, I don't think so. The stage set might be an interesting thing to actually kind of work with Lulu Anu a little. It's hard to say quickly. Lulu Anu, in a way that with the graphic novel, you can kind of see all these different settings and the effect they have on the characters. Very interesting, might be an interesting comparison with some of Johnston's ideas. But again, you're looking for the one idea that you want to work with. Again, the ones I highlighted you may not want to work with them. And of course, they're not highlighted on the version you got. So, but just looking for the one idea. Don't try and understand everything Johnston's saying, unless you're going to go read all of Ibsen's works in the original Norwegian, and then think about it for the rest of your life, then come back and write this essay. We don't have time for that. You're just looking for one good idea that kind of appeals to you and that you can apply to Lulu Anu in particular, and probably later on, obviously, a dollhouse, but that's going to be kind of obvious as you read his work. What exactly is reality? And there's a lot of interesting similar things between these two works, right? Almost kind of the same plot in some ways. Characters undergo violent reversals. The stage set's kind of interesting. That's one that's not highlighted here. This idea of realist versus realistic would be a very interesting thing to work with. Davido's going for a very realistic effect with this graphic novel, but also kind of pulling back with that realism a little bit, like especially with the color scheme and things like that. Lots of interesting ideas, and that's the neat thing about humanities essays. We're kind of allowed to throw out these ideas. You can't in your essays, but Johnston certainly can with his criticism here. This idea that Ibsen did not imitate contemporary Norwegian reality, he reinvented it as a metaphoric stage that only exists within the nature of the work. That could be kind of an interesting one to work with the graphic novel as well. So it's kind of, but don't pick a topic I'm talking about. I don't have to write your essay, right? Try and find a topic that you kind of find interesting that relates to Lulu Anu, and think about how you might work that into your own essay. I was talking about realism there a little bit more. And you're going to go to the Scott McCloud TED Talk. I'm not going to watch this whole thing or anything, but he does kind of the same thing. He's thought about comics a lot. He's written some books about it. He wrote a very fascinating graphic novel about graphic novels. I don't have it with me right. But it's particularly starting at about the 7-minute mark. He's going to start talking about images and why graphic artists do a certain thing and do a certain way, and why some faces may not be as realistic as others. I kind of talked about that too as well. That might be an interesting thing to get into with the dollhouse, where it's supposed to be kind of realistic, but it's not in a lot of ways. Ibsen kind of plays around with some of this stuff. But again, some of the stuff may go over your head a little bit, or especially if you're new to graphic novels, you may kind of like, wow, I didn't know anybody actually thought about this so much. But that's kind of what college is. You meet a lot of people who thought about things you haven't thought of, and it's kind of fascinating to get into. Or at least I hope it is. So again, you're looking for the one idea from both of these guys that you want to work with. You're going to apply Brian Johnston's essay to Lulu Anu, even though he's talking about a dollhouse in his essay. And you're going to try and apply Scott McCloud's idea about graphic novels to this 19th century play by Henrik Ibsen, right, The Dollhouse. But the first section, you're just going to introduce whatever idea you're going to talk about from both of these guys. and then give your thesis statement. This may take you 2 paragraphs. It kind of depends on how complex your idea is and how much you need to explain it to us and what you think is happening there. When you're going to quote from these fellows, but also you want to explain what you think that quote means and how you're going to apply it to your essay. The second section, the body of the essay, you should develop your own thoughts regarding how Johnson's idea relates to Lulu Anu and how McLeod's idea relates to a dollhouse. Then after that, so you're going to go kind of in your own direction. How are you going to bring all this back together into a good discussion that's your own, right? And I'm kind of interested to see where many of you are going to go with this. But there should be no other research other than Johnston, McLeod, and the 2 works. Don't go to Spark Notes and start quoting stuff about a dollhouse from Spark Notes. That's a good way to get have me ask you to do a rewrite for the entire essay on a different topic. So be careful there. I can't stop you from doing that, obviously. I don't control your computer, but be careful there. Also, the body of your essay should involve analysis, particularly in terms of what Johnston's saying and what McLeod's saying and how that applies to the works. Don't just summarize the works or what Johnston or McLeod say in the body of your essay. Number of paragraphs in the body of the essay is up to you. This is less formulaic than the first one. You probably won't have a 3-point thesis or anything like that. It kind of depends on your topic and how you're going to apply it to the works and things like that. So this takes a little bit more planning on your part, and that's kind of why I want to see that thesis first and the first 2 paragraphs first, and then finally the draft. If you notice on some essays with the first essay, kind of complained about conclusions, just restating what your essay's already said. Please don't do that. You're building towards something here, and that's kind of why section 3 kind of says start shifting towards that conclusion. And make sure you have a well-developed concluding paragraph that does more than summarize your essay. What does your analysis have to say about these 2 genres, or what literature and art and all this has to tell us? Don't just restate what you've already said. Make sure you have Johnston and McLeod on your works cited space, and also Lulu Anu and a dollhouse. Make sure those are all on the works cited space. But again, that's the only thing that should be on the works cited space. You're not doing any more research after that. Then all the requirements, at least one quote from each work, and somewhere in there it should have at least one long quote and one short quote from the 2 literary works. That's a dollhouse or Lulu Anu. And just want to make sure you know how to format those and put those in your essay. When we cite Lulu Anu, make sure you do it by giving both the panel number and the page number in the citation. People do a very good job with that on the discussion board, so it's easy for me to just go straight to that page and see what you're talking about. That's exactly what you want to do in this essay. Should have the fun punctuation in there. If you didn't have that in the first essay, make sure you get that in the second essay. Those are points you don't want to lose there. And of course, avoid the forbidden words, especially it. You should always be able to rewrite a sentence so you don't have a vague pronoun use, so you don't have a shift to passive voice with the use of it. Try to be careful with to be verbs, is and are. Start using the action verbs a little more frequently. Just kind of working with some basic writing ideas there. But the trick is you got to go read through that realism in a dollhouse essay. And again, that's a tough one. He's getting into a lot of different things, and he's kind of expecting you to kind of know maybe a little bit more about Ibsen than you do. But hopefully after you've read a dollhouse, you can kind of follow what he's saying. And again, you're looking for that one idea, not to understand that entire essay. I will never quiz you on the essay. You're looking for that one idea. Same thing with Scott McLeod. He gets into some pretty technical stuff. You just trying to find that one idea that you can apply to a dollhouse, and kind of have that interesting juxtaposition of the critics and the dramas that we're working with. I think that's about it. If you have any questions about it, be sure and let me know, and I'll be happy to try and help. But other than that, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.